Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. I've got a lot of stories about the stupid stuff I did to get put in prison. I've also got a lot of crazy stories about the stuff that happened in prison. And God forbid you end up in prison, won't to make some of the same mistakes I made. So I was a pimp. I didn't really quite understand that I was a pimp, but in retrospect, by the law, I believe I was. I was a 17-year-old pimp. Go figure. So how did that happen? First off, the idiot that I talk about, the 30-year-old that was hanging out with those kids, Denny, I think he's the one who introduced us to this group of people. I met Dickie and that whole bunch, and through Dickie and that whole bunch, I met two call girls. We're going to call Candy and Darlene. Okay? Candy and Darlene. And they tell me they get paid $150 for each stop that they get to make, and they get tips on top of it. And whoever drives them from place to place gets $50 per stop. And they're never in there for people pay them for the hour, but they're never in there for an hour. They're usually in there for about 15 minutes. And that if I could drive them, I could make $50 a stop. Now, there was a time where I used another car, but this particular, I had an S2000, which was a two-seater. It's like a man's version of a Miata. It's the tough version, 240 horsepower. If they come out with one, they're talking about bringing it back next year. If they revive that, I'm going to have to find a way to get that. That was my car, man. I loved it. It was back in Fast and the Furious days. Everybody's souping stuff up and everything. Had a supercharger in it, a few other modifications. But I love that car, but it's a two-seater. One day, which is another story, they had me driving both of them, two of them sitting in the passenger seat in this car. And I said, oh, no, I can't do that again. I mean, driving around with two hookers in a car, in a two-seater, piled up on top of each other's laps, driving them from place to place, it was too gnarly. So there was a particular day that I'm talking about here that was a wild day. So I told them I wasn't going to do that. They called this other guy who they knew would give him a ride. This guy gets there, and I'm gonna call him Chucky. Okay, he looked more like Waldo, like, you know, Waldo. Where's Waldo? If you could turn Waldo from those little puzzle books where you have to find Waldo into a crackhead, that's what he'd be. Waldo's a better name. We're gonna call him Waldo. And apparently, his dad owned a security company. Now, in order to hold a piece, you have to be of, like, I believe it's 21 years old. But if you take this course to be a security guard, you can have one when you're like 18. I learned that through him, and I actually was looking into possibly doing that so then I could have one like legally underage, but ended up, that's a whole other story. I went to the class, messed up. I've been up all night. I was nodding out the whole class. That's another story. There's so much stupid stuff I've done. I lost my 20s to federal prison. Definitely not glorifying it. I'm looking back and laughing. You know, you laugh to keep from crying, but now that things are good, you can just look back and smile. That type of deal. That's how I look at the stuff I've been through. So anyway, Candy and Darlene and Waldo. So they call Waldo over there. This dude is something else. Like if Urkel was white, it'd be this dude. You know, he's like pushing his glasses like that. He's got his pants up. You know those people that wear their pants up past their belly button? Okay, like that. It looks like that. Every one of his teeth are the color of peanut butter. They're yellow. And his dad owns some type of security company. That's how he got involved doing just security work, staying up at night patrolling, you know. And he's got his thing on the piece. And he gets there, and I'm just like, oh, Lord. So I take the one girl. We drive to a number of places, and it's all orchestrated, so at the end of this, they can meet up with me and use their money to buy stuff off of me. At this time, I was selling blow. You know, I've been gutter as could be. There were times where I was down, didn't have a penny. There was times where I had a connection, I made it happen. And, you know, that's what happens in that life. You think you're going to retire or get to a certain point when something, no, it doesn't happen. So, but when I had this connection, I was rolling. A unique thing that happened was back when I was like 14 and 15, the guy who we all bought blow from, he was 28 back then. I remember that. And he had a reputation and about being quick to pull something. And I bought from him and sold for him for all those years. Then through just ending up in a rehab in drug court, I ended up meeting this guy who ended up being the connection, and I ended up being his connect years later. The guy who I bought from when I was a kid, I ended up being his connection years later. He was real bitter about that. He actually, the last I heard from him, he was trying to set me up to rob me. I'm about 99% sure. I just never talked to him again after that. He was in a bad situation. But sometimes when in that type of life, if somebody's your connection and then you end up being their connection, I seen there's a lot of bitterness in that. But anyways, that's what happened. But he's hood as could be, street as could be, and he's about it. Okay, you know, he wasn't that big. He's cut up, but he'd fight and he'd smack somebody quick. You know, I seen him do it to a few people that came at him incorrect. So we do our runs, take her to 3 different places, and Waldo was supposed to meet up with the other girl. Okay. So I go over to his place because I have to drop something off to him anyway. And I'm trying to, how I would do it was I'd try to get stuff done all at once. Like I'd have a drop spot where I'd get a whole bunch of business taken all at once. So basically by going to this spot, I'm hooking up this guy, the guy who he used to be my connect, but now I'm his connect. I'm hitting him off. Another guy who's with him wanted something. Both the call girls and then Waldo, hitting all 5 of them off at one spot. That way I'm not driving and, you know, attracting a bunch of attention. That's what I used at Dickie's house. Dickie's house, I'd have 5, 6, 7, 8 people stop by there, and just all at one time. So anyway, we get to the house, we go in, it's him, one of his buddies, you know, breaking out scales, everything else, and getting everything situated. And then the other girl comes in. Darlene comes in and told Waldo to wait outside. Okay, I don't know how these people would have reacted to him. I don't know. She must have told him, you know, you need to wait outside. If he'd come in there like, so what do we got here? You know, they probably would have been like, man, what'd you bring this guy in my house for? So he's sitting out on the back porch. Okay, we hear a commotion, and we see Waldo on the ground. And this other dude standing over top of him, getting ready to punch him again. He's just knocked him out of the chair, and we go, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, you know this boy? And apparently, the guy who, the house, owns this house, he got home and sees this crazy white guy, it looks like a white Urkel with peanut butter teeth, sitting on his back porch, thinking, what's he doing sitting on my porch? This dope fiend just sitting on my back porch? He doesn't know he doesn't know everything that's going on, so he's done clocked him, and we're like, no! And asked him what happened later on, and he said that the guy walks up and looks at him, and he looked at him, and he said, I said, well, what'd you say? And he said, I said, sup. I mean, it didn't even sound right coming out of his mouth, because he's literally like, come on, you know, you can give me a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, come on, man, I've done a lot for you today. He's that type of guy. Okay, complete dope fiend, terrible. Like the person who will nag you, they'll be out and they'll be begging for more. Everything at just level 5, the worst of the worst. So he's done got clocked, and we're like, no. So we had to explain it, and then, you know, he gets upset. You bring this crazy cracker to my house and all this other stuff. It all gets calmed down. He gets brought in, and he ends up doing some of the stuff. We hung out there for a minute, okay? What ended up happening with them sometimes, with Candy and Darlene, is like sometimes they put their money together and buy a whole bunch at one time, but other times they trick themselves. They trick themselves into thinking, I'm just going to get $50 worth. And then $50 is gone, they're going to want another $50 or $100 gone. And they're going through it quick. So I'm staying around because I know they're going to want more. I don't have to meet them 10 more times. So I figure I might as well just stay here. By staying here for 3 hours, I'll save myself a whole bunch of separate meetings later on in the day. You see what I'm saying? And the guys who I'm meeting, they might hit off some more people, spend some more money while I'm there. So it made more sense to just chill there for a minute, get what business I had done with them done, and that be it. Well, Waldo ends up running out of money. He got paid, $50 per place that, he drove. He spent his $150 up. He bought little bit by little bit too. If he'd spent the whole 150, he would have got more. It would have lasted longer, but he didn't want to do that. So he's got a piece on him, okay? He's got a piece, and he's trying to get me to trade him for his piece. And I'm thinking, your dad owns security. That's what you have for your job. Your dad's going to know you don't have your... But I'm not saying that. I'm like, no, man. I said, I don't want nothing to do with none of that. And then, of course, the other guys, the guys I knew, hey, what you want for that? What do you want for that? And he's like, I want give me 400 for it, something like that. It was some. He gave him some high number. They end up trading him out for the price of what a ball would go for. And, for $140, he got rid of this piece. It was a nice piece too. And I'm like whispering to my friend, I'm like, man, you shouldn't do it. He's like, why not? I'm like, dude, this just doesn't sound like it's going to end good. Just tell him no, send him on. They didn't want to listen. They gave it to him. He spent it. That was that. Well, end up parting ways, but there was a whole nother dynamic that happened to this story that I wasn't a part of, but I heard all about. And I told him, I told you not to do it. I told you send him on his way. It was not my fault, because they came back at me like, oh yeah. And I said, I don't even know that dude. I said that was with them. And they're like, basically because the two hookers I had with me, they brought this guy to the house, and I brought them to the house. They were making me like the link that connected all, and I was like, you guys got to calm down with all that. I didn't have nothing. I even told you not to do it. Nobody got hurt feelings with me, but what ended up happening was he kept calling back and saying, man, I've got to have that back. That's for my job. My dad has this company. I've got to have that back. I have to have it back. And they're like, well, bring the money back. And then he kept on calling. They're like, matter of fact, why don't you bring $300 back? Got $140. Bring back $300. And then he called over and over to the point where he's blowing up, like phone call after phone call after phone call. When they're hanging up on him, he's calling right back. Okay? Over and over. His dad ends up calling him and having to talk to him. And it all ended up getting worked out. He ended up taking the money to him. Nothing ended up happening. But I mean, you got a dad of a son that's, twacked out of his mind and owns a security company. You know that he's involved with like law enforcement on some level. Okay, you done brought that and invited that into your life and everything else. But so basically it all got worked out. It all got handled. But yeah, I warned him not to do that. And I mean, this guy, I can't even say enough about him. Like, just one of those people, man. And it was an everyday thing. Now, the thing about the whole pimp thing, I figure I'm just driving. See, there's other people that have different hustles that make some money for driving too. They got these trucks. They sell meat at the back of them. Got a big old freezer on the back. If they ever come to your door, they're going to run a scam line. I'm warning you now, don't buy it. They got a scam line that's going to look like you're getting a deal of a lifetime. The Kingpin that I drove for when I was a kid, growing up, his brother was a meat truck. He sold he made $300 profit a day. And here's how he did it. He'd come up the door and he'd say, excuse me, miss, or excuse me, sir. I'm from such and such meat company, and I had this delivery down here. I can't take it back, so I've got to get rid of it. I have this brochure here with the prices. I'll give it to you for half price. It's extremely marked up in the catalog, and he's like, it's the same meat that they sell at such and such restaurant, and has this whole spiel. So it seems like you're getting a deal. You're getting half off price. It's rigged. The whole system's rigged. And if they sold the whole cooler, if they sold all the boxes that were in the cooler strapped in the back of the truck, they get a $100 bonus. So sometimes he'd sell it for cost just so he'd get the $100 bonus. That was a hustle. The guy who went door to door selling it got so much money, and the person that drove got like $50 to $100 plus, part of the money for driving. And that was one hustle I saw people have. So I figured this was like shoot, you're just giving them a ride. They don't have a car. Ultimately, what it was you're driving these girls around to make sure they get back out safe. What is a pimp? By definition, pimp is somebody that, protects the girls, the hoes, okay? And of course, real pimping is a whole different thing. That's scum of the earth people, man. That's in prison, they are not looked kindly upon. There were a lot of pimps from California that were in Petersburg. They got sent out to the East Coast because they don't play that. At the high security prisons, a pimp is a sex offender. People don't think that's cool. Pimping, it is not a cool thing in prison. That's why I see it in music videos, stuff like that, talking about I'm a PIMP. Yeah, go in a federal prison, some of these ones, and say, have it be a sex offender for pimping and see what happens. It is not going to be pretty. But ultimately, I figure I'm just driving them to 3 places. It ends up taking, a few hours, you know what I mean? And when I drove both of them at the same time, 3 places, usually 3 places each person, I get $300 for driving them. Each of them's making like $500 in probably a couple hours. The longest part's the driving. I mean, and there's a number of times too. I'm gonna tell you, I think that they were robbing people too, because there's a number of times they came running out the door with a T-shirt on and no pants, telling me go go go. I mean, I can only imagine. I don't have the full story on all of what happened in some of those, but I went when they said go go go. I wasn't going to stick around and see what the ho took from the house, because that could have ended me in some trouble. See, listen to me, talking about pimping, I'm rhyming talking like one of those fools. But I could have been charged. Because technically that's what that was, and I mean, you get charged with a sex offense if you do that. Even underage doing it, it still, that's not a good thing to have on you. So I look back in retrospect, that could have ended up really bad. But anyway, Waldo, there's a few stories about that idiot. I don't have as many stories or much on the story about his dad calling over and over, or him calling over and over, and his dad getting involved, other than just an angry them telling me what happened. And they told me, don't ever bring him back over here. I said I didn't bring him in the first place, But anyway, that's pretty much it for this. Sorry, my voice is a little inconsistent. I'm deaf in my right ear. I've been deaf in my right ear for 3 days now. I woke up, had something that went to my ear, and I can't hear, so it's a little bit awkward for me talking right now. It's been messing with my equilibrium a little bit. But anyway, pretty sure might be off federal probation. Got to see these papers and make another phone call to double check. But when this happens, man, I've got something planned. I'm telling you, and and just so you know, on camera too, the people, whoever it is, I get come down here and everything, I'm gonna show you me giving the money them on the camera for coming down, doing it for their time, enough for gas, enough for a little bit, a good little handful of walking money. I figure, they come down, hang out for 6-7 hours. I could probably get, good handful of stories out of each of them that could be put up over time, But I've got some very interesting people. Former kingpin from Philadelphia. Got another guy that did 17 years that he'd never seen a cell phone before he went to prison. Got out during the lockdown. Imagine that, how crazy that is. Shell-shocked in that. And, another friend who was selling bricks, driving a truckload of bricks back every few weeks from the time he was 16 years old. Oh, that's very verified. I mean, his case, he was selling a whole brick to somebody, So I've got some very interested people I plan on some stuff. And y'all saw how I did it with my mom, I pretty much, I'm figuring this thing out. It looks like I'm a little established because it looks like mine break 10,000 subscribers today. That'd be incredible. But even though it looks like I'm established, just 2 months ago I only had 1,000 subscribers. This thing kind of took off, I don't understand why, but I'm grateful for it. But I'm still learning, so work with me a little bit. I know some of it's a little bit different, but I'm still learning a lot about how to do this. So I've got a lot of room for improvement. But for y'all who've been with me, thank you so much. It's been some of y'all been here since like the beginning. Some of y'all been here more recently. If you've been here, thank you so much. If you're new, welcome. It's a good group of people on here, man. I'm hoping to have like a little community of people. It's a wild assortment. Got martial artists on here. Got some jiu-jitsu guys, some boxing guys, Muay Thai guys, MMA guys. I've got good many addicts that are back doing back clean now, doing the right thing. Some people are struggling. And I'm hoping that like this could be a community of good people, that through these comments, somebody's going through a hard time, other people can bring them up. I don't want, to have like comment section with a whole bunch of troll douchebags just being jerks. I want to have something like that can help. Some of y'all know I've written like an essay or 5 essays of responses to certain people. If you go through some of these sections that are doing rough, giving my thoughts, my input, trying to help, because I really do care. I was deemed a hopeless addict. I was deemed incurable. I got sent to rehab 3 times before I was 18. It was mainly to avoid prosecution, and it's kind of a body broker thing, kind of a thing where they made money off the insurance. This one guy did. It's actually a movie, Body Brokers, that talks about that. It's a whole business they have of, it's billions and billions of dollar business. But and then all the stuff that happened after that. Like I was deemed, just one of those people that wasn't ever going to get it right. And I'm good now. There's nobody that's incurable. Nobody's beyond help. And anybody that says that is a douche or a big giant dick. That's what they are. And so don't ever believe that you're beyond repair, beyond cure, anything like that. I know I rambled a little bit on about this, but you're not. Anybody can do it, and I truly believe that. So see somebody in comments that seems like they're a little bit down or something. Talk to them, try to bring them back up, because that's a big part of what I'm trying to do in here. But anyway, sorry with the audio, can't hear out of my right ear. It's freaking deaf. It's the luck. But if you like the video, if you think I earned it, press the like button. If not, that is 22 minutes and 15 seconds of your life, which you're never going to get back. And I'm sorry. But I truly hope you did. Y'all have a good one.